Oh dear, this documentarian does apologize for the rapidity of this shot. But then again, this was a point when he was really being followed. We shall endeavor to get all these quickie shots out of the way in this second part of the document so that you, the viewing, listening audience, can gain a calmer, more studied perspective of the British Museum's callow world discussed from the remainder of the document. Anyhow, speaking of callow, you'll here catch a brief glimpse of the cold white face of a 19th century timepiece haphazardly hung in a case with Babylonian pipe pouches and Aztec telescopes. Yet another tired example of the British Museum's haphazard filing and organization system, as though we'll need any more of those examples before this document is done. Anyhow, the 19th century timepiece in question is not the watch of Leonardo da Vinci, as the tag in the case would have it, but instead a whore watch, likely used by a gin-soaked prostitute in Victorian London. Mother's Sorrow, as gin was called. Before explaining that remark, though, let this documentarian offer a parenthesis on Leonardo da Vinci. Frankly put, any time you see Da Vinci's name stuck on a name tag by the British Museum, you can almost guarantee a falsehood. Da Vinci, in the British Museum's mind, has become the safe Italian, the socially acceptable Italian for upper middle class whites, a de facto white person, an honorary posthumous member of the Illuminati and the elite and the Freemasons. If you moved in their circles, you would find many members of the ruling class laboring under the belief that Da Vinci was white, which he wasn't. He was, of course, olive-colored. But anyhow, Da Vinci is a catch-all substitute for any lack of knowledge in British Museum staff, or in other words, the British Museum's backroom motto is, when in doubt, call it a Da Vinci. But what then is a whore watch, you must be asking, but don't ask too hard. The answer is but simple and sad. It is indeed a watch with which a whore in Victorian London would time her tricks, making sure they stayed in her room for less than an hour. If you were a kindly trick, however, and the whore fell in love with you, and you became her favorite, you would see the whore watch put under a pillow or placed in a keepsake box, and you could grin inwardly, knowing you were winning of the contemporary catchphrase, a whore eternity. Finally, in this section, we have your standard pair of Egyptian statues, with the female breasts hidden, but the male nipples prominent. The British Museum, in probably a rare moment of their own paranoia, wherein they thought someone might check their facts, has gotten the tag on this statue right, referring to it as the Pharaoh Ramotep and his Queen Amato. However, none of the story of Queen Amato's rise to power is referred to here, for hieroglyphs tell us that immediately after this statue was posed for, Queen Amato let loose several asps in Ramotep's harem chamber and thereby slaughtered Ramotep and his entire harem in the course of a single hot Nile evening. Even then, the fury of a woman spurned in favor of even back then, the fury of a woman spurned in favor of a harem was more so than the fury of hell. Explaining the asps away as bad luck of the desert, Queen Amato was able to use her power over the castratos, the ruling cabinet of men who had given their manhood in favor of clear thought and beneficent rule. Yes, Queen Amato used her powers over them, described as a stupor or a spell in those days, but the power was really just the allure of a beautiful woman you could never have because you didn't have anything left of yourself being a man. So Amato used this power of the castratos to obtain her queendom that she generally already had, but now of course it was a bachelor queendom, and she ruled Egypt without being bothered by men for over 50 years with gentle femininity and thoughtful dispatch, having put asp releasing behind her. Amato was so well known and honored, her grandiosity was passed all the way down through history into the inspiration of the modern comic book hero Wonder Woman. Of course, none of this is documented in the British Museum's tag for the statue because that would be the promotion of one of history's most powerful women, and the British Museum Illuminati/Freemasons board of directors is all men, every one. Yes, throw chauvinism on the British Museum's pyre of world disgust, and in this section of the document alone you have indices of chauvinism, racism, ignorance, and laziness. This, then, Britain, this is your British Museum.